Welcome back to the Man That Can Project podcast. We have a very, very exciting guest today, someone that I'm honoured to have on for the second time. The first time was, until recently, our highest downloaded ever episode. It was episode 388. Matt Lancashire, welcome back on, brother.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, different suit, but still looking sharp today.
Thanks, buddy.
If I recall, last time you were wearing a green suit.
Green.
Delicious. But today we're back on. We spend a lot of time together. I'm very, very lucky to get to live inside the brain of Matt Lancashire quite regularly, someone who I aspire to have the financial success that you have, but more importantly, the way that you conduct yourself around family and friends is something that I really want a lot of people to understand, because from the outside looking in, once again, a lot of men, especially our main audience, are striving for success, and that comes through predominantly money and status, two things which you have. However, you focus very heavily on making sure you're a good mate, but more importantly, father and husband. And so today we want to give people a bit more of an idea of some routines and I guess the seasons of life that you've gone through to earn more money, have better love and better relationships, but also have a good chassis, good rig, good health to enjoy all of those for the long-term results. So, mate, let's dive in straight away. The other day we've had the conversation multiple times. I think it was when we were running, but you were talking about, man, I'm feeling the best I've felt in a very, very long time. You're sleeping more. You're feeling more successful at work. Your relationships are better. You're feeling healthier. And that was because for a long time I've been like, Maddie, you need to sleep more. You need to sleep more.
You were into me about it.
Why did it take you so long to listen to me?
Well, what's been really interesting, it like you said, it's seasons of life. You know, I and thank you very much for your kind introduction as well. That's very kind of you. I from the inside out, I don't look at that the same way that you look in at me. But look,
people need to tell you a bit more once in a while.
Thanks, mate. That's very kind. Yeah. Look, I manage my life with three buckets, right? And you mentioned them. One of them is family relationships is a big one for me.
Yep.
Whether that's within my relationships within work, at home, mates from school, new people that I meet, and my own family, like my brother, sister, mother, father, wife, children. Then the second one that I always use as a barometer is finance. So wealth creation, how you're managing your finances, you know, what are you doing to create wealth? And the third one is health. So health is not just the rig. The rig is just a byproduct of hard work.
Yeah.
Still trying to get there.
It's still important, though.
Still a bit muddy at the moment.
A bit muddy, eh?
Got a little bit to go. But not only that, but, you know, how you feel. Having everything, all your organs running nicely, having all of your heart,
yep.
everything, your brain, is a really important factor for me. And it's interesting, in the past, and this is our conversation on that run.
Yep.
In the past, I've only ever been able to do two of the three really well, and one of them suffers. So my rig could be looking good and feeling good. Home life is going exceptionally well. You know, great relationship, great connections with family, friends, all of those things. But then my business might suffer. Or the relationships with the family's going really well. Business is going really well. But I'm a bit muddy. And not feeling good and feeling shit. And you know what? Like, it's one of these things I've been trying really hard to work on all of those buckets. And I've been on this drive to chase perfection in those three buckets. And I know that perfection is a big thing, like a hard thing. Like 10 out of 10 on every bucket is not achievable, really. But if I could try and sit somewhere between 7s and 9s all of the time, that would be amazing. That's a win, right?
Yep.
So you talked about seasons of life and things happen. So, you know, obviously there's the growth period. And when you're starting out, hustle period, growth, learning,
hustle,
whatever,
hustle,
whatever,
porn or whatever
it might be. Then you go into, you know, the position of, okay, I've got to a point now where now I need to go to the next level and grow to that next stage.
Yep.
Obviously, there's a lot of sacrifices that's involved in that. Then you work and you get to this point where I've been doing this now, real estate, for 17 years. Family happens. kids, children, all of those things. And you've either got to work on two things, right? You've either got to keep doing what you're doing and, burn yourself out, lose connection with your partner, with your family, with your friends, all of those sorts of things, or get to a point to work smarter and integrate all of the buckets that I spoke about into your life. But then you have children. I've now got 4 children, which is pretty,
time for you to get the Kia Carnival.
which is pretty well. I'm an ambassador for Mercedes, so I've got to get the V250.
V250. Okay, well I'll stack up with the Kia Carnival.
Only at Mercedes-Benz Toowong and McGregor.
Plug.
And
maybe they'll sponsor the potty now.
Maybe.
Get on it, boys.
And then, so when you have the children, so for example, now, I mentioned on this run to you that it's the first time I've felt really balanced in all 3 of the buckets. And what it comes down to is now, when my wife, we've got our 4th child, she's up every 3 hours at night. I thought the only thing that was appropriate for me to do is to take the workload in the morning so she can sleep in a little bit longer. I take the kids, I can spend time with the kids, connection with the kids, doing breakfast, getting them ready for school, taking them to school and or kindy, right? And that's become a really important time for me with the kids. But what it's also done as well is I was training at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to bed at 10 o'clock at night, then up at 4:30 or 4:58, and going to the gym. And if I didn't sleep, and if I only had 6.5 hours, maybe even 5 hours sleep, that it affected me. And it wasn't until this year, and you've been going on about sleep for a long time, of how that can impact you, how it make you feel if you have good sleep. And I've been able to now go to bed at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, wake up at 6, not having to go to training, up with the kids, doing all of these things, getting 7.5 to 8.5 hours sleep every single day. And it has been an absolute game changer for how I feel, how I am as a human, how I am as a friend, how I am as a leader in a business. And it's just been a game changer.
But for those, there are people out there who are like, I still don't need, I can run well off 6 hours. You were literally, for as long as I've known you, that's been you.
Well, I've been, I used to say 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, and my mind doesn't switch off. Like, it just keeps going, and I'll be having 5 conversations. Like, I'll be on a run and I'll just start talking gibberish. I'll be like, I'm thinking about 10 things in my head already.
Yeah, it happened the other day.
Yeah.
You're like, and I was like, I forgot what I was saying. I was on to the next thing. And I was like, okay, cool.
And, but do you know what? Like, it has actually been one of the best adjustments I've made. And to do it, it takes a bit of time management. So to move my training, and I love training, right? I love training with you. And if I don't train, it affects me during the day, right? So I have to find the time to be able to do that. And I probably maybe not have been able to do that earlier on in my time because of obviously just pushing hard and more appointments and time. But now that I've physically made the time and prioritised sleep, prioritised exercise, I train at lunchtime at the moment.
Which is the best, even for me.
Well, you get a little bit of
little sleep into
as well, and it's and doing that, it's made me super productive. Well, I wake up feeling good. I do my lot of work in the morning, all the way through till lunchtime. Then I have my training session. Then I'll eat some food, and then I'll be back in the office for the productive hours in the afternoon. And because of how I feel, and breaking up and doing that, everything is all starting to line up. So work is going exceptionally well. I'm still managing to do the same, if not more. And I'm a better father, better husband, better friend, and feeling good. And I think one of the other catalysts to it, and I know that there's a lot of people that probably don't talk about this as much, is just try to cut out alcohol from Monday to Friday.
Game changer.
Game changer.
But when you spoke about before, you sort of you found a way to create time. And I think to dive into that a little bit more, one thing that I've always been mindful of, and we probably spoke about this in the last episode, in 2014 when I started my business, the goal was always to have a bit of flexibility to travel with Amy, or just my dad was always at work, and not because he didn't love us, but that's just how he showed his love, by providing for us. And for me, I didn't want to have that sort of relationship with my children. I wanted to be able to be a bit more flexible. So I was like, okay, I got to work my ass off to create that. I have to learn skills. I have to network. I have to become more valuable, which meant I had to sacrifice a lot of things. I don't drink much at all not because I don't enjoy a beer, but it's more so the fact that I understand what it's taking away from tomorrow, which is at this point in my life, that's where I need to invest my time into growing towards what I'm trying to create.
Not many people think like that though.
But yeah, no.
They don't think about the tomorrow. They think about
And they wake up, and a lot of people wake up, and it's generally a lot of the people that we work with, whether they are business owners or people in management positions, they're like, man, I just want more time with my kids, or my missus hates me because I'm working long hours and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, well, that's unfortunate. Like, everything that you've done to this point has led to that. If you're a bit more intentional with why you're doing things, you could have created a different outcome. Doesn't mean we can't change it from here on out. It sucks where you're at, but we've got to now work to go, okay, well, this might be 2 to 3 years down the track before you've put yourself in a position in your business to be able to go, I can go for a training session at lunchtime. I can sleep till 6. But in the beginning, when you were saying you've got 2 out of the 3 buckets got attention, that's the reality until you set things up, because you create a thing called leverage. You might, in your relationship, create leverage by continually investing in, I call it like daily deposits, to a point where you might have to do 6 months of hardcore work, which means you're withdrawing from that bank account with your partner. Mm-hmm. But you've still got enough credit in there. The same goes with your health. We're both fit. We can taper for a bit if you need to give energy to more time with family. If family's sick or they need it and you can't train for your hour a day, you might do 10 minutes, but we've got credit. Mm-hmm. The same with obviously the finances as well. I think that's what a lot of people really don't consider.
Well, I think that what happens is anyone that is building or wanting to build, or they think they want to build something, right?
Yeah, I like this, where this is going.
They think they want to do it. I think the problem is that they're not prepared to make the sacrifices in order to enable them to get there. So my first few years of starting out was coming into an industry that I didn't have any experience in, trying to find my way, the learning period. That's fine. You learn, you make mistakes, you get knockbacks, that's fine. Some people can handle the knockbacks, some people can't. You either get in the industry or you get out of the industry, you try something else. But I don't. There's something about it, and we see this a lot now in our business. We've got 160 people across our group now with 80 real estate agents.
It's insane.
And what I find fascinating is you've got people that say that they want to do it, and you've got an agent they sit 2 meters away from each other. They both say that they want to be successful and they want to make it. Both have similar experience, both have similar, emotional intelligence, all of those sorts of things. But this agent A on this side writes $2 million, agent B 2 seats away makes $20,000. And they both want the same things. They've both got the same skill sets. They've both got the same effectively,
opportunity.
Yep. Same opportunity, same market. And it's why the agent B doesn't do it. And it fascinates me.
It's interesting. The gentleman I had on yesterday from America, we were talking about this because I was, Brad and I are doing a webinar in a few weeks, and I'm looking at that same thing with clients that I have. Everyone can project this external goal. It's like, I want my body to look like this. I want to earn this much money. I'm going to have this car. My dream girl is going to look like this. It's easy to talk, but internally it's like, where's your thermostat at? Most people's are hiding behind, they put on this facade. They're full of shit. They lack self-confidence. You can read people like a book, right? Especially you're in sales as well. You know where people are at with that based off the actions that they're doing. So if internally you feel like an imposter, or if internally you don't feel confident in your ability to pick up the phone and make sales calls or ask a girl out on a date, you're never going to achieve that goal. So if you can't, you can keep telling everyone you're going to do stuff, but if you can't address the internal stuff where it's like, dude, I'm actually just afraid to pick up the phone, or I don't think I'm good enough.
Well, what it is, James Clear nails it, right?
He's
in
the
Atomic
man.
Habits.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fail to the level of your systems.
Yep.
So everyone can have this goal. I'm going to be number one. I'm going to drive a Lamborghini. I'm going to have the hot chick. But then if you don't have any system or process in that, or hard work, or ethic, or drive, or tenacity, and the will to go back and do it again and again and again and make the sacrifices. So going back to what we were saying is, well, those ones are never going to make it, right? Like if they don't do that and show up. Like showing up is one of the biggest things, right? Like, and doing it over and over and over and over. And I'll be honest with you, like, I don't know anyone that says every day is the greatest day in the world. I love everything that I do every single day. I love what I do, but there's some days where I go, oh, geez, I could get out of real estate today.
Yep.
I don't far out. I don't want. And
retreat to the hills.
But then, if you know you're good at it, you love it, and not everything is, rainbow lollipops. You've just got to keep showing up and doing things you enjoy doing, and the rewards will come following that. And what happens is, in that period, the sacrifice is probably the thing where people get to, and then they don't understand what an actual sacrifice is. So in the building stage, for when I was having a red hot crack, it was miss out on birthday parties, miss out on mates' 30ths, like my own 30th birthday party and my mates, and I think I spoke about this in the last podcast. I rocked up 2.5 hours late to my own 30th.
Surprise.
And no, I got there and people were really pissed off. And credit, they should have been pissed off.
Do you regret that?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. And when it wasn't until Christmas time this year, where I was with my friends down in Byron Bay, had got this house for our missed 40ths, which was fun.
Thanks for the invite.
Where we got just all schoolmates, mate.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You're a bit younger than me. We were sitting around and we spoke about it. And one of them said, do you know what? I get it. I get it now. Why you didn't give a fuck, effectively.
Yeah.
And it's not that I didn't give a fuck. I don't like holding people up or wasting people's time. But I was going to go to the party. I had something that was really important that I needed to do. And whether it was something else, I prioritized it because I knew what I wanted, and how I was going to achieve it was by doing that.
Yep.
And Saturdays, Sundays, in the office at 6:30, 7 o'clock, out of the office at 10 p.m.
Yep.
And what I see now I look at that now, looking back 17 years later, and I go, there's not one thing that I would have changed. I just wish I did it a bit earlier.
Yep.
And would have probably been seeing the fruits a bit earlier. Maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear it. But I don't know why, because I've got people that started at the same time as me, same market as me. And I've just gone so much further. And I think that it comes down to sacrifice. There's actually one other thing I think that is a step before that as well.
We're getting all the goodies here.
So, well, it's sort of... So when you go into something that you're unsure whether you're going to be any good, I was an electrician, right? And not a very good one. And then I became a very ordinary real estate agent. It took me 9 months to make my first sale. Like people were saying to me, go back to being a sparky. You suck at real estate.
Oh, but I sucked at being a sparky too.
And it's
what am I going to do?
And so I didn't know what I wanted to do, and it was very hard at that point of time until you make a decision.
How old were you at that point?
25.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So I was at that really interesting stage, right? So
you feel like you should have your life together by 25 too, though, don't you?
You should, but then you go. It's making a decision based on something you don't actually know.
Yep.
I find business fascinating. I go, someone goes into this business, right? And they go, I'm going to have a run at that. But then they realize they get to a level and they go, shit, I don't know if I can leverage this financially. And then what do? Are you happy to only earn that much money and being happy in your job? Fine. A lot of people do that. That's great. Or do you switch industries and go, well, I can only get to that level there. I want more than that. when you get to an age, like at some times you get to a point, it's hard to
start again.
100%. Although they say, I read a lot of...
That's a fear for a lot of people, though, especially who are at that point, like the midlife crisis age, where they are thinking life's not that fulfilling. I want something different, but the whole thing sitting in the back of their mind is I'm going to have to start from scratch again.
But that, and then they've probably got kids,
Yes.
and then they've probably got a mortgage,
Yep.
then they've got all of these things.
Yes.
And unfortunately, there's probably some really skillful people that could be super successful that just aren't prepared to take the risk. Because of
Yep.
the family,
the
commitment
dependence,
they've
right?
got.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's sort of sad in a way, because the fear of the failure of, oh my God, what happens if I do this and I'm even further back than what I thought I'd be? Scary position to be in. But, you know, like I reckon there's some people out there that if they back themselves and said, let's go,
Yep.
there'd be some serious growth.
But this comes back to sacrifices like you talk about as well. There's risk involved, and there are a lot of brilliant people who aren't taking the risk to do that. But if you do have, for example, family, a mortgage and all of those things that require you to have a set income, for example, start finding pockets of time to upskill and minimize your risk by learning whatever it is that you need to learn. Obviously, the first and most important thing in doing your own thing is sales. If you aren't getting sales, then it doesn't matter how good a coach you are or whatever industry, and it does not matter. You don't get to do that. So start learning that, doing courses. One thing I was thinking about the other day, I was like, why haven't I ever just followed Matty around in the car for a day and just watched him? Kind of weird, but learn from you. See what you've done to, even though it's a different industry, there's still a lot that could be learned. And there's the opportunity for anyone to do that. But they don't think about that because it's like, oh, I need to have my weekends or I need my sleep.
But what's even interesting, even people that are inside this industry that know they could benefit from that don't do it.
Mm.
No, like no one comes up and says, hey, can I come and sit in your office and listen to your dialogue for a day? Because you know what that takes?
Time.
Effort.
And yeah. Yep.
And you're 100% right. So for me, with where I'm at today with my career, and I'll go back to something in a tick, but is my whole thing that I try to do with my team every single day is I hunt. I call it mastery, right?
Yep.
I want to be best in industry, best in the world at the activities that we do every single day. That's what we do, right? So if you, I shouldn't do this as often as what I do, but before I go to sleep, it's rather than flicking on Instagram and everything now, I'll go and I'll listen to a podcast or I'll listen to something or I'll read. I'm subscribed to The Economist. I've subscribed to The Australian. I subscribe to the Fin Review. I subscribe to the Courier Mail. I subscribe to the Sydney Morning Herald. And I subscribe to the New York Times.
Bloody hell.
And I read all of the articles and all of the things that are going on in the world because I like to learn, right?
Yep.
So, and that's what I like to do. I like to read books. I like to listen to audio books like James Clear, Atomic Habits, if you haven't listened to it.
And re-listen to those things because just because you've listened to it once, it still hasn't
the best
sunk in.
And so what people do most of the time is they're not prepared to go that extra mile. They're happy just to be, well, whether it's lazy, whether it's fear, or whether they just don't really care that much.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But before the growth period, with the growth, when you're starting to get a little bit of success, there's a really interesting crossroad there once you start to get going, right? So coming from no experience into real estate to being absolutely shithouse to going, okay, I need to make this work because the alternative, plan B for me, is not where I want to be. So I only want plan A, and I'm not going to fail, and I'm going to make sure I do everything humanly possible until I have to go back the other way. And you start to get a little bit of success, right? Then the problem that I found is I started to question myself, hey, I'm getting a little bit of success here. Am I actually worthy of this success? Like, do I actually deserve this, or am I good enough to do it? And that part there, it can go two ways. You go, I'm a fraud, I'm going to pull back a bit, I don't think I can do that. Or you can be, holy shit, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Go overdrive the other way learn everything you possibly can, master everything, learn every intricate detail, and become the best possible version of yourself that you can be on that direction. And then everything just goes on a huge trajectory.
It's interesting to that point with Dom, who I was speaking with yesterday. He was talking about a client that he had where he was worth, had an 8-figure business, but never kept fucking things up. And when he was talking to him about a few things, he was so successful, but everyone else in his family and stuff wasn't successful. So he kept sabotaging himself because he wanted to say to his family, hey, look, I have these problems. I still stuff this stuff up. As soon as he realized that, he's like, fuck, I don't need to be relatable to everyone in that way. They're still my family. They're going to appreciate it. You've just figured different things out. And a lot of us are doing that subconsciously, where it's like, we want to fit in with the people that, whether it is family or people that we spend time around. So we might play down our success. Why the fuck would you do that? Because there's people on the flip side who are, for me, getting to hear about your successes and what you've created. Whenever I talk to you, whether it's running, training or whatever, I walk away feeling extremely ambitious. I'm like, man, I just got to do this a little bit better, and that's the direction that I'm going to head in. Mm-hmm. And we've spoken about sacrifices. We've then spoken about systems, and I think tying it back into being able to afford different seasons of life, whether it comes through leverage and time. We're in the point in our business where my coaching is not as good as it was 24 months ago, from even coaching you and other people that I coach, because I've been working, building the systems. We've got a business partner, we've got staff and stuff. So not only I'm not doing as much of what I love, I'm now trying to deal everything else. However, now we're nearly at the other side where we've got the systems in place, we've got the infrastructure, and within the next little bit, I'll be back to just spending probably 70% of my time doing what I love.
I don't think you should undersell yourself. Like, I feel exactly the same from your coaching sessions and training sessions, personally myself.
Yep.
So I don't think you've gone backwards in the last 24 months. I think you've actually improved and the game's lifted.
Yeah.
So don't sell yourself short on that.
I like that. Appreciate it. But that's how I feel, though, because I also know my time has been put in other areas. However, I believe it's where the way I'm thinking is, okay, I'm prepared to sacrifice this, pull back a little bit here, so that once we get through here, I'll be able to go even harder, but I'll have more time to do what I'm doing really well, and nothing else will be sacrificed because I have the right key people in the right places to do everything else that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't need to just go for people who have businesses. For people who are employed, you do the same thing and create leverage in your life.
Totally.
Like Amy and myself, we have different roles around, people get all upset about who does what in the house. It's like, look, I work a little bit later, so therefore Amy's generally the one cooking. I'll clean the dishes, and then she can go practice guitar or whatever. We have different roles and routines to give each other leverage, because if we were both to cook, if we were both to clean, unless you enjoy it, of course, you're wasting someone's time.
100%.
So, and if you can afford to eat out or do all those things, but that's once again coming back to leverage, and you don't get that without systems, risk, and sacrifice.
Yep, agreed. I think with when seasons is a really good. I think it's a great conversation, because when the kids grow up, then what's next? But what I've found really interesting is it's now being 17 years on the front line, right, of real estate.
Pretty wild.
Oh, I've worked 6 days a week for 17 years. So every Saturday, most people have an extra day off. They have Saturdays and Sundays off. I've only had 1 day off every single week from my whole working career, right? So, and that.
Do you reckon that'll ever change?
Yes and no. Like, it's I've got things like kids footy, Monty's footy, all of those things which I sort of plan around.
Yes.
So I don't want to miss that. I'm the same as you. My dad was a worker. He wasn't around for the footy and all of those things, and I wanted to make a conscious effort that I wanted to be involved in that part. So look, I still enjoy it. I fall in and out of love with it, right? Yep. And I think I spoke about in the last podcast that I really struggled last year with it. I wanted to give up real estate. Yep. Because what happened is real estate has a really, really bad name generally. So if you look at all industries, like, there are shady people in all industries, But in real estate, unfortunately, there's probably more bad real estate stories, and most people come to most open homes without knowing you, judging you, without knowing you. And I really struggled with it.
Why?
Because they don't know me.
Yep.
And I wasn't mentally, I didn't have
As sharp as...
No, I didn't have my brain trained around why should I care.
Yep.
And
that's a good point.
And it got to a point where I remember being in an open home last year, and this person was so rude.
Yeah.
So rude to me. And it wasn't until I said to them, "Oh, you know my father." And their mouths dropped because they knew they were so rude to me. And they wouldn't shake my hand or anything like that. And as soon as I mentioned my dad's name, who's a surgeon, he went to shake my hand, and I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't shake hands." And straight, the worst thing that came out of that whole situation, the worst thing, is my brain went so into wanting to prove to them that I'm better than them.
Yep.
And that is not me, mate. Like, I am not like that.
Why do you think you did that?
Because I just felt like, I don't know. Maybe because I got emotional in the fact that they were rude, and I'm sick of having to prove myself to people all the time based on being the profession that I'm in.
Do you feel like that's a big reason why you work so hard, though, is to prove yourself as well? Or has it been an element?
It's probably more so to myself.
Yep.
Like, it's, I always knew that I was going to find my feet. I always knew I was going to do something. You know, I come from my dad's a surgeon, my brother's a surgeon, my sister's a teacher, my mum was a detective with the juvenile aid. And literally I was like remedial reading grade 11 and 12 at school. And I always used to go, oh, geez, I just wasn't book smart.
Yep.
And I always used to feel like a bit worthless because I wasn't book smart. But what I found out in life is not about book smarts or this.
At all, yeah.
It's about, school was hard because school focus and tailors only for
one specific type of learning, really.
Well, and at that point of time, definitely maybe it's changed a little bit now. There's a huge expectation on young people to try to navigate what they want to do for the rest of their life.
Yeah, at 17 years old, yeah.
At a young age. And you should do this. You should be a doctor.
Get a career counsellor, and they'll tell you and say, the fuck?
Yeah, you should be a, yeah. And it's like, I was listening to this podcast with Mark Burris the other day, and it was that Kogan guy, the guy that owns the e-business.
Ah, yeah.
And he's a refugee from somewhere in Russia, and his dad, because they're refugees, came over with $70 in their pocket, said, if any refugee, they want their kids to be doctors, right? Straight away, doctors or lawyers or whatever, because you're going to have a good career. And then one of the brothers or something cut his hand open, and he saw the blood, and he passed out. And the mother said, went to the father, I don't think the son's going to be a doctor. and now he owns this massive, $1 billion e-commerce company. Yeah, and but there's this huge expectation on people, on young adults, young children, effectively, to know what they want to do for the rest of their life. And at that point of time, they didn't cater for emotional intelligence, and I actually used to feel like dumb. I used to feel dumb.
Yep.
And then became a Sparky. Didn't, mate. I didn't even know why I wanted to do that. Like, literally.
Red wire, black wire.
Red wire. Yep. Blew up a few pair of pliers in my day. And then you go to, I went into real estate. Not even, mate. It was like let's just do this because this is something you should do. But what was really fascinating about it, and I talk about this a lot, like, I actually fell into something that I was very fortunate to fall into because I loved it, and I knew that there was no boundaries on its reward. Effort is you get rewarded for it, right? Yep. And real estate doesn't discriminate. So you could be a boy, a girl, fat, thin, Asian, Caucasian, whatever it is. It doesn't discriminate. And it's one of those things that the harder you work, I always say, it's either the hardest working, highest paid career, or the lowest paid, laziest job. And that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
And I just felt very fortunate to be able to go into it. But going back to that story about me wanting to get out of it last year, like, mate, it really, really, really messed with my brain to the point where I went and saw someone about it.
Yeah.
And the reason it concerned me so much is I went into overdrive of trying to prove to someone I don't know, I've never met or care about, that I'm better than them. And whether I'm better than them, and this is what's really scary, and it scared me. I tried to think in my brain, and this wasn't, I didn't vocalize this, but I wanted to...
You just did.
Well, I have now.
Fucking about 20,000 people are going to be hearing this.
But I went straight to, I'm better than you and I'm probably more wealthier than you.
Yeah.
So why are you being a prick to me? And I corrected myself in my brain. That wasn't even vocalized. And I went, who the fuck are you? Like, why would you care about someone you don't know about that was rude to you? And then because they found out who you were through a relationship with my father, it's then okay for them to be nice to me then.
Mm.
And it really messed with my brain, mate. It, like, literally for 6 months, I literally had sat with Hazley, my business partner, and I said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm over it. And then I went and saw this lady who was amazing, and she's trained my brain into, like, why would you care? Why would you actually care? And what I've learnt from that whole experience, right, is what's really important to me in my relationship bucket we were talking about, is why don't I just be the greatest human I can possibly be to my circle of people that I care about, that care about me? And one of my drivers of actually having 4 children, right? Everyone said, why would you have 4? It's a lot. It's a lot. Why would you have 4? And in the back of my mind, this is no shit, is I think if you have a big family, 4 kids, when they all get older, all the kids' partners, friends, everything, I want to have the safe house that everyone can come to and feel safe in our environment. And I want it to be the fun house, the loving house, the cool house.
Yeah.
And I worked out, if you have 4 children and you've got a really good, tight network of friends, you actually don't need that many friends.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a brilliant way of looking at it.
And that's what came me back. That's what got my head back from going, why do I care about that when I've got a great, loving wife, beautiful children, great family, brother, sister, mother, father, cousins, aunties, uncles, all of that, really great. Great circle of work friends, great circle of other friends like you, gym friends, all of those things. What else do you want? You know, and and now I'm really enthused and excited about life because I've been able to go, who actually gives a fuck about what anyone thinks about you when they don't know you or you don't need to know them?
And they aren't prepared to get to know you either.
That they don't care. And if anyone judges you purely based on
what they say on social media or first appearance and whatnot,
why would you care? And do you know what? This is the coolest thing about that whole thing. The moment that you actually don't care or it doesn't affect you, right? What other people, things you can't control, you're free. You're free. It's amazing.
Why do you feel a lot of people don't like to, or they like to hold on to, or like to be at the effect of people's opinions or the economy? Because you would be seeing, I'd be interested to see, but I would assume you would definitely be seeing it in your industry now with the economy the way it is, interest rates going, it's very easy for agents to go, it's because of the economy, I'm not selling as much or I'm not getting as many listings. And you're always at the effect of everything going on around you, right? It's not a very freeing feeling because you're going, fuck, what's going to happen today that's going to disrupt my momentum? As opposed to the flip side of that being, you're still selling houses, people are still selling houses, people are still buying houses. Yes, the interest rates are rising and the economy's in a weird spot, but it's still happening. What can I do to be better? And some things you've touched on though is like you've got these other areas of your life in order to allow you to feel better at work. You had even 17 years in, last year you had a moment where you're like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. But you got external help, you spoke to people. Now you're more enthused than ever. So there's always going to be roadblocks. But when you find a way to work through them, you just become stronger because you're taking responsibility. It's my fault. I want to get better.
100%.
You're seeing it in your industry. What do you think needs to happen for a lot of young agents? And let's talk about for everyone.
I just think about any industry.
Yeah.
Like it's, you've got to have self-accountability. So the one thing that I think that I focused on, regardless, like you've got to ride the wave of any sort of conditions, right? You got
it's a season: summer, autumn, winter, spring.
You got to have the ability to ride the wave, right? Yep. And in our industry, we've just come through the greatest selling cycle that I've ever seen, and I've seen quite a few cycles. And it's interesting, and what I kept saying to everyone in our team while it was happening, because a lot of them hadn't even seen a different cycle. So they just think it's not normal, right?
Yep.
And so I would say to them all the time, no one knows how good this current time is until it's over, until it changes, right? And anyone that is just working now, not grinding, hustling, going hard, will see the effects when the market conditions change. Because what happens is, if you're lazy and you're making good money and the market has, it was more the market rather than you,
yep,
you're going to see the effects of that when it shifts. And when a market shifts, people will go and trust people that are doing business, that have got good profile, and that are seen to be a safe option for them. So anyone that was lazy in those periods of time, that didn't build the profile, that didn't go harder, that didn't do all these things, are going to suffer for it. And what was really interesting is, I always say to my wife, like, hey, Caitlin, market's running, give her a kiss, I'll see you in 6 months, right? Then she goes, you're saying that a lot lately. So what happens is the market goes up, you work your ass off because it's just so good that you know that market's not going to be there forever. If you're asleep at the wheel, you are missing so much opportunity.
Yep.
Give your wife a kiss here in 6 months. Then if the market tanks, you got to say, hey, this is really tough. Give her a kiss, I'll see you in 6 months. She's like, you're saying that a lot.
Yeah, you just want the kiss and get out of here for 6 months.
And it's, but you know what? It's, I think what happens is there's a lot of people that sit there and they go, geez, the economy's tough. Geez, this is hard. Geez, this is that. But they're actually failing to do the work and follow the process. And what's interesting right now in my business, in my own personal sales, is I've built a team, which are amazing, and we're following a process. We're not deviating from the process. And like I said, my expectation of myself and our team is best in industry at that and doing those activities. And we don't go, oh, the market's changed, let's just try
something else.
No, we keep going and grind and do the same activities because we know that they work. And what's happening is we're getting all of this business, we're getting people that are seeing that we're doing the business, we're doing everything consistently every single week, nothing crazy, like nothing out of the ordinary that no one else knows what to do. But we're just doing it consistently. People are seeing the results coming through, and it's an attraction business that's bringing people into our business. And what people do is when the market gets tough, they stop doing all of their process stuff, and this is relevant to get across every industry.
Yeah.
They stop running the processes that they were, and they chase things that they know, I need the white whale deal because this is
going to tie me through.
And then what happens is they spend so much time on that big deal. I hope that deal happens. And then the deal falls over, and then they're back behind the 8 ball again.
Yep.
So what you need to do is you need to double down on the things that you know and the systems.
They're generally not sexy or fun, are they?
Mate, there is nothing glamorous about picking up the phone and calling people you don't know, asking if they want to sell their house.
Give us your best opener. G'day, Matt Lancashire, Ray White. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just an information opportunity guy.
Interesting.
Just got some information and opportunity.
What do you got for me?
Huh?
No.
What, the information?
Yeah.
Oh, I've just sold a house just down the road from you. It's, we had 17 registered bidders on it. Just sold for $500,000 over reserve.
Oh, naughty.
And the opportunity is we've got 16 cash unconditional buyers that would love to buy something like yours. Would you like the opportunity for me to bring them through?
Yes.
Let's do it.
If you can get me 500 over reserve of mine in Toowoomba, which is only
That would be, oh geez, that would be about $200,000 more than what it's worth.
yeah, at least. At least. Fucking hell. But it's interesting when you talk about those seasons of life, and I think a lot of people as well forget that in those seasons of life, you got to redefine what success looks like for you in that period. Because I'm sure when you went from, obviously, really, I know you've hustled the whole time, but let's say when Monty was born, you would have had to have redefined what success looked like for you now, because you know you're now a father. Your relationship with Caitlin would have shifted a little bit. So there were these things that you would have needed to go, okay, I can't do what I'm doing. I still need to get the same output. I need to learn to be more efficient in that process so that I can get that work done, but also now be a dad and a husband in a different way.
Again, seasons of life. At that point of time, it's something I wish
What a theme we've gone with.
Probably could have changed. I wish, looking back, I could have changed it, but I was still building business. I was when Monty was born, I was in a position where I was growing a business, and I sort of needed to grow the business. So where I am now is completely different to where I was 8 years ago with Monty. Like, we were still building, and it was like, okay, well, I do my maternity week and then straight back into it. Yep. And it's it's tough. It's like, it's really, really tough. It's a sacrifice.
What's that like as a dad missing out on that?
Oh, mate, it's gut wrenching. Gut wrenching. Like, but now, if you look at my relationship I have with my children,
it's awesome.
There's nothing that's affected that.
I still remember one day when Amy and I were walking past your house, and it was a Sunday afternoon, and you were having like a singing concert on or something. I can't remember.
Back,
fuck, it was fun. We were going to drop in, but we're like, no, we'll leave you to that one because I don't want to have to sing in front of you. I would have rocked your socks. Yep. But fuck, it was funny to walk past and listen to.
Cranking it.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
Well, you've been down the coast to our place down there, and
oh mate, I've experienced it. I've experienced that, and it's really something special. But that's what, as well for me, is like, you've shown me that it's possible to achieve financial success to a point where you can create leverage and have incredible. You can literally have it all. You may not in the beginning be able to have it all at once, which is what a lot of people want, which is why they aren't patient, they aren't prepared to sacrifice and all of that. But if you're prepared to play the long game, you can get it to a point where you really have an incredible life.
Yeah, the other thing as well is it's levels of what you actually want to achieve. Like
Zelda.
Not everyone wants to, and I don't know what it is for me, but, I know what I want. I've got a clear path of what I want to do. And
how did you figure that out though?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I guarantee you there's going to be some people who aren't taking responsibility at the moment, and then they'll say it's easy for you, Matt, because you're selling $1 million homes, you've got this, you've got that, you're an ambassador for Toowong, Mercedes-Benz.
And McGregor.
I was going to say Kia. No, I'm kidding. But there's a lot of people who can say that. You've got yourself there. Yep. So what makes you different? I forgot the original question, but I'm just going to tie something else on the back of that. What makes you different that got you to that point for everyone else who says it's easy for Matt Lank?
Well, I've got a lot of people that start at the same time as me in real estate, and their journey is vastly different to my journey.
Yep.
And I think for me personally, I always knew that I wanted to be successful. And I don't know, there's so many different metrics to successful, but financially for me was one of the things that I just wanted to have the financial freedom where I never had to have the stress of finance and money. And then it got to a point where I think it's a really interesting thing actually. It's all about levels. So it's like you get to a point, you get there and you go, okay, well, what's next? And the hardest thing that I'm finding right now is the space that I'm dealing in with some of my clientele. I really need to start to not think of that sort of level, because some of the different levels are like ridiculous. And it's like, and then it actually just starts to mess with my brain a bit. And it's like, I know what my levels are, and then it's being happy and comfortable, content with every stage that you're at.
Yep.
Right. And it's, and for me now, like I sit there and I go, okay, well, I've about to build a cool house that we're really excited about. It's been
awesome.
a big process for us. And then that's my next goal.
Yep.
Like I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to do that.
So you always have a goal you're working towards?
Always. Yep. And one of the great goals that I'd love to share with everyone here that Hazley actually was a big on is every year, regardless of the year that he had, he made one significant investment, right? So, for example, he started buying houses in areas that he could afford. What happens is young people today, they're so fixated on the lifestyle and Instagram and all these things and the flash car, the nice house, and they go and they buy the big house that they will pay off the debt for and they get stressed about paying it off because they've gone and overextended themselves. Hazley went the other way, and he would buy a significant investment depending on the year he had. So if he had a shitty year, he'd buy a smaller investment, like buy some shares. If he had a decent year, he'd go and buy a house. So over the period of every year, from when he was 18 years old, he ended up collecting about 12 or 13 properties, and, you know, buying in areas like Rocklea and buying other things.
Yep.
And when buying that, over time, if it's a long-term investment, you get the benefit of the capital growth, you get the benefit of the income, and at some point you get into a position where you can then sell off some of those assets, become debt-free, build whatever you want, and that's a really good way to create wealth, right? You look at
that's phenomenal.
You look at, and so for anyone that wants to start, do that. Funnily enough,
that's what we did.
Yeah. Mate, I went overseas and blew a couple $100,000 over there.
Yeah.
After I sold a house, but anyway, it's another story. But then there's other things you can do, like Warren Buffett, for example. And, you know, I was watching a thing on him, and he said that he bought his first stock when he was 11 years old or something. And he said if you invested $174 back at that time there in just in all
S&P
like
500
companies, that wealth in 20 years' time was worth $400,000. But no one does that. And then if you keep reinvesting the dividends, you know, but people are always
compound effect.
But no one does that.
Yep.
Like no one thinks about that long game. They're all looking for the low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
That I'm going to achieve that. I want this. I want the car. I want the house. I want this. And
Yeah.
Young people are buying the watches and the cars and everything before they actually
have wealth. That's rich, not wealth. I would consider people want to look rich.
Yeah.
But then that's one rule Amy and I have was like we never want where our money's going to impact our lifestyle. Like
totally.
With the interest rate rises, our house, so we bought that one in Toowoomba, it was a shitbox but good block of land. But it hasn't impacted our daily life as everyone's talking about interest rates. We're like, it is what it is.
Yep.
But that's sort of our strategy, same with putting it in other things, because we never want to impact our lifestyle. We're happy to work hard, but I still want to actually do stuff.
Totally.
While we can.
So, yeah, I don't know. I just think at some point you need to have a goal.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few different sort of goals. I've got my big, hairy, audacious goals, I call them.
BHAGs.
BHAGs.
What's one big one? Do you want to share one big one at the moment?
Yeah, one of my big ones is I'm now on the hunt for buying income. So, for example...
Buying income?
Yeah. So, like a commercial building where I get income coming through. And so my goal is to have $1 million worth of residual income coming in through investments.
Over what period? That's the goal.
On the hunt, yeah.
Well, mate, if you need any 1% investors, I'm your guy.
There you go. Just little things like that. And, you know, I don't like debt. I don't want to have house debt. I don't want to have any of that. That's one of my biggest drivers is... And people go, oh, well, that's not smart. You should be leveraging. I've got lots of mates who are into me all the time about wealth creation and debt and all of those things. And I just feel like if you own your house, it's your only one asset that the tax man can't get you. And if the shit ever hits the fan, you got no debt on your house, you've always got something to sell. That's what I think.
And it's all about your risk appetite as well.
I'm not a risky guy. Like I'll risk on little things, but you know, like financially risk, I just want to be, I'm all about safety. Yep. And I think when you're safe, you can make clearer, smarter decisions rather than if you're risky and you're doing it and you're like, you know, risk is a funny thing, mate. Like risk can be, you know, if you had $1 million and you go to the casino and you can either lose it or make $2 million, Mate, imagine if you won the 2 million. How good would that be? What if you lost $1 million?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I think about that a lot, and I think, geez, it's I just want to be safe.
Yep.
Safe. That's all.
I like it. Okay, everyone, that's Matt Lancashire back. That was an awesome chat. That was pretty much like our run all over again. We should do one where we're running. I don't know how that'd work.
Probably wouldn't be that good. I'd be thinking about 10 different things and
Yeah.
not being able to talk.
Yeah, it'd be funny. The only reason why we've got to wrap this up is we've got to get to the gym. We've got to get a pump on.
That's it.
But thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure once again. For those who are listening along or watching along on YouTube, make sure you hit the follow buttons to be notified every week. You can find Matt Lancashire all around Brisbane. His face is everywhere, but also on his social platforms, Matt Lancashire. You on LinkedIn? That's probably
I am, yeah.
Which do you prefer? Which is your favourite platform?
Instagram, probably.
You just got to get in his inner circle so you can get on text with him.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be.
WhatsApp, that's a good one.
WhatsApp's... No, I'm not giving you a number out. Man, I get some weird messages on WhatsApp. It's been awesome. We'll see you guys on the next episode.